Welcome back. Well, a group of people under the banner of the African Climate Reality Project, they're spending their Africa Day protesting outside the African Development Bank headquarters in Centurion. They're demanding that the bank stop financing any fossil fuel projects. They say the bank must not finance any more coal projects or gas projects, and they must ensure that our continent moves towards renewable energy. You'll know, of course, that scientists are predicting that Africa, and southern Africa in particular, may well feel the impact of climate change more quickly and more severely than other parts of the world. Dean Bhebhe is the Zero Campaigns Coordinator at the African Climate Reality Project. Dean, good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. What are you demanding from the bank? Why are you protesting there?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. So we are calling on the leadership of the African Development Bank to commit to 2022 as a target date for publishing a roadmap for the 1.5 degrees Celsius Paris alignment goal for reducing emissions. That is to be implemented by 2023 to 2025. This target will establish AFDB as a leader and go a long way in influencing other African development finance institutions to raise their ambitions. We also want the bank to prioritize the development and implementation of a fossil fuel finance exclusion policy that states that the bank will not fund, provide financial services or capacity support to any coal, gas or oil project or related infrastructure project that is carbon intensive on the African continent after 2022. At the very least, they also need to establish an immediate ban on any new fossil fuel projects and publish a roadmap for phasing out all fossil fuel development financing to advance the just transition in line with the Paris Agreement. And that policy, being said, should be guided and managed through an equitable phase-out process, taking into account the principles of equality and justice for those primarily affected within the timelessness needed to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement.
Okay, so, I mean, you say no more coal. Just to be clear, you're also saying no more gas. And the reason I ask that question specifically is that even in Europe, people see gas as less damaging to the environment and able to be used now. You also say no more gas.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, AFDB's stance on gas is unclear, and that is quite alarming, considering that gas is not climate-friendly or even a financially viable option if we look at other alternatives in terms of energy, so particularly in the African context. So rather than recognizing, the limited role gas should play, the bank should really then try and remove all the references to gas in their policies, even including the final versions of policies that exist, such as the Climate Change and Green Growth Strategic Framework. There's already empirical evidence that's published in our position paper that we handed over to the AFDB today in the afternoon that really centers wind and solar as viable energy options that are actually financially friendly in the African context. And the most fundamental problem that we do see is most people do want to push for other options such as gas and not embrace environmentally friendly options such as the sun, because they tend to be able to control other options such as the gas, whereas the sun is actually available to everyone, and that's one of the problems. But to answer your question, it is not climate friendly, it is not an option, and it's financially costly to look at gas as an alternative.
Dean, you and I are going to argue about solar power in a moment, and we will include the phrase base load. But in the meantime, you march against the African Development Bank. I understand why you do that. It's an important body. But another important body that actually makes the decisions, frankly, at the moment, is the governing party, the African National Congress. In their policy documents that were published last week, I don't know if you've had a chance to read them, but they say that that people who oppose gas in South Africa need to be, this is their phrase, not mine, confronted politically. I thought that was a very strong comment. They're talking about you. They're saying that you need to be confronted politically. African Bank, sure, but I mean, you need to take on the ANC if what you say is correct.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we live in an era where, for example, in COP26, the Just Transition Pact was signed, and that Just Transition Pact is a load of money and a lot of funds that are being channeled into South Africa to help with their renewable journey. But then at the same time, that money is going to a government whose energy minister is proclaiming that coal is the future for Africa. So again, the problem does become political, but I mean, at the core of the problem, how we make something more meaningful is really trying to give it a humane face and really process that idea around lived experiences. And this is what we try to do with the ACRP, with that slogan of climate justice is social justice. Because at the end of the day, while they're pushing for more oil projects, for more coal projects, the people that are least responsible for the climate crisis have to pay for the effects that they feel as a result of that. We've already started feeling them. We can think around day zero in Cape Town, the droughts that are ravaging Africa as a whole, even the KZN floods. This is all due to the fact that we are really functioning in a state that is embedded in a system that is really bordered on capitalism, which is driven fundamentally again by fossil fuel gases, which is dirty energy, instead of embracing clean energy such as wind and sun.
Okay, Dean, now let's have our arm wrestle about this. And you can call me SG if you like, but don't you dare call me Gwede Mantashe. For what you say to work, you need to be able to show that solar power and wind power is available all the time. And I'm sorry to say this, but sometimes the sun don't shine and the wind don't blow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, fine, sun don't shine and the wind don't blow. But that's in technologies that have been developed that actually harness wind and solar power that will actually keep that energy for long amounts of time. So I think the problem around this discussion as well is raising awareness on the opportunities that actually exist. Because currently, if we even look at countries like Rwanda, most of the parts of the country is currently being run through renewable energy. But that's because there are certain technological advancements that have been made within the renewable sector that actually helps us achieve and tackle those instances where there is no sun and when the wind doesn't blow. So we need to explore those options and start beginning to raise awareness around those opportunities and really establish an inclusive approach. By inclusive, meaning getting the voices from communities involved, getting CSOs involved, getting a gender-focused and inclusive approach to this. Because the reason why we are viewed, or people like myself who are viewed as we are pro-renewable energy, meaning we're not pro-development, that's the issue. We are not anti-development. Our problem is what's currently viewed as development is actually systems that are oppressive. So I am not anti-development, but I'm anti-systems that are staged to take away the rights, the rights for people to work, the rights for people to live, the rights for people to survive. And because of that, what is fueling those segregations and those instabilities in people's socioeconomic livelihoods is because we're being governed by coal. And really, if we did embrace renewable energy through a socially democratically owned system, then we might start something by really empowering people with energy that's actually available to them and actually starting to raise awareness the significance of that. And the reason why we have these questions is because there's a big gap between understanding what renewable energy offers and really the discourse around how coal, oil, and gas have become dirty energies and how that really affects the dialogue around climate justice. Right now, people do not know or do not even understand how their rights are being violated as a result of coal mines. But if we do go, for example, to Lephalale, we'll find people who have lived experiences suffering from pollution, have graves being desecrated as a result of those.
Dean, we're going to have to... We've heard you. I think your phone is ringing because someone wants to confront you politically. Dean, I really appreciate the time. Dean Bhebhe is the Zero Campaigns Coordinator at the African Climate Reality Project. All right.